Have you ever noticed that the more desperately you chase approval, the less respected you become? You work tirelessly to please others, carefully choosing your words, adjusting your behaviors, monitoring every reaction. Yet somehow, despite your best efforts, you find yourself overlooked, undervalued, almost invisible. Why is it that the moment you genuinely stop needing anyone's validation, suddenly everyone seeks your attention? Could your constant need to be liked actually be the very thing making you invisible? Imagine for a moment that your desire to be accepted is a veil. Each effort to impress, each carefully measured response, each anxious thought about how you are perceived adds another layer of fabric, slowly concealing your authentic self from view. Ironically, in your pursuit of recognition, you've made yourself nearly impossible to see clearly. But what if the secret to attracting genuine respect isn't about performing better, but about genuinely caring less who's watching? Perhaps true power isn't found in striving harder for acceptance, but in quietly letting go of the need for validation altogether. Carl Jung once profoundly remarked, "Your vision will become clear only when you look into your own heart." What if your endless pursuit of approval has blurred your true self? Ask yourself this honestly. How much of your daily life revolves around seeking validation from people who might never truly see you? How many decisions have you made purely for applause, quietly sacrificing who you truly are to please an audience whose attention is fleeting at best? Maybe your real strength, your authentic value, emerges only when you stop chasing approval, when you finally remove the veil, no longer hiding behind expectations and applause. Could the validation you've chased for so long be precisely what's holding you back from genuine respect, meaningful connections, and authentic freedom? Think about how often you've shaped yourself based purely on what you think others want to see. Every choice, every action, every carefully adjusted behavior, tailored specifically to earn approval, admiration, or acceptance. You might have thought this was your path to belonging, but have you noticed something unsettling? The harder you try to impress others, the more invisible you become. Your need for external approval, quietly but consistently, chips away at your true worth and value. Consider Sarah. At her job, she constantly tried to impress her colleagues, staying late, offering help, agreeing even when it didn't feel right. Despite her effort, she felt continually overlooked, unappreciated, even invisible. She wondered why no one truly saw her, why recognition never followed her dedicated efforts. One day, exhausted from constant performance, Sarah simply stopped. She spoke clearly and honestly, no longer worried about approval or rejection. Unexpectedly, people began noticing her. They started asking her opinions and genuinely respecting her presence. The moment Sarah stopped needing their validation, they finally saw her value. How often have you done the same? Shaped your identity around expectations rather than your authentic feelings? Have you ever realized how exhausting it becomes to chase approval, like trying to grasp smoke? The harder you clutch, the faster it slips away. When you stop chasing validation, something fascinating occurs. You no longer project emotional dependence. Instead, you exude emotional independence, one of the most magnetic traits a person can possess. Emotional independence signals strength, clarity, and authenticity, naturally drawing people toward you. And consider Tom, who spent years pursuing friendships with people who barely acknowledged his efforts. He would try too hard, adjust his personality, and constantly seek approval, only to feel ignored or undervalued. Yet the moment Tom decided to focus purely on himself, his growth, his values, his self-respect, the same people who previously ignored him suddenly sought his presence. Indifference, genuine indifference, acts as a powerful magnet. When you stop chasing people, they instinctively begin chasing you. Could your intense desire for approval actually be a mask, a persona you've unconsciously worn that prevents others from seeing your authentic self clearly? What might happen if you decided to drop the mask and live effortlessly as who you truly are? Yet, there's another more troubling aspect of constantly seeking approval. The more dependent you are on external validation, the more vulnerable you become to manipulation. Think carefully about how easily your confidence has been shaken when someone withdrew their approval or validation from you. Have you noticed how quickly your mood, self-worth, and decisions shift simply based on someone else's reaction? Your need for constant approval is like handing over the remote control to your self-esteem, giving others the power to decide when you feel valued, significant, or invisible. Emily, for example, always adjusted her behaviors and opinions to please her friends. Over time, she noticed that these friendships thrived, only because she continuously compromised herself. She was always available, agreeable, and accommodating. But whenever Emily expressed her true feelings or desires, those friendships quickly faltered. It became painfully clear that her entire social life was maintained through constant sacrifice of her authenticity. Is this dynamic familiar to you? Have you found yourself caught in friendships or relationships where your value depends entirely on your compliance, your willingness to abandon your genuine feelings to avoid rejection? But there is a powerful, transformative insight waiting for you here. True freedom, genuine self-worth, and authentic happiness do not emerge from external validation. They emerge from the clarity that arises when you no longer base your self-worth on how others perceive you. Carl Jung described this process as individuation, the journey of becoming your authentic self, independent of external expectations. When you embrace this inner journey, remarkable shifts begin to happen. Your authenticity, self-respect, and internal clarity naturally attract opportunities, connections, and genuine respect without effort. Consider Michael, who struggled for years trying to fulfill external expectations at his workplace. He was constantly afraid of rejection, carefully shaping his words, actions, and behaviors to fit others' preferences. Yet he always felt drained, overlooked, and undervalued. Eventually, Michael decided to stop seeking approval and started showing up authentically, clearly, unapologetically. He anticipated rejection, but was surprised to find the opposite. People began to respect him more. New opportunities appeared effortlessly. Genuine relationships naturally formed. By letting go of his need for validation, Michael discovered real freedom. Authenticity, he realized, is like gravity. When you stop forcing attention, the right people naturally gravitate towards you. What if your constant pursuit of approval has been blocking your path toward individuation, your true journey toward becoming yourself? So now, pause for a moment and reflect honestly. What part of your authentic self have you consistently compromised to maintain shallow connections or seek validation from others? Who could you become if you stopped performing for applause and started living genuinely, clearly, authentically, even if it meant walking alone sometimes? Perhaps your fear of isolation, your fear of rejection, and your desperate need for approval aren't protecting you. They're holding you back. Maybe the loneliness you fear is actually an invitation toward clarity, independence, and genuine fulfillment. When you no longer seek validation, your inner self stops performing for others and begins living authentically for you. Imagine clearly how your life could feel if you stopped caring so desperately about who's watching. Imagine waking up each day guided solely by your authentic values, decisions, and desires, not by external applause or superficial validation. This shift might feel uncomfortable at first, even frightening, but consider the profound freedom waiting for you on the other side of approval seeking. The less you depend on others' recognition, the more clearly you'll see your true worth. Could it be that your constant anxiety to be liked has clouded your authentic self, causing you to lose sight of who you truly are? What if letting go of your need for approval isn't losing something, but gaining everything. This insight isn't just theoretical, it's practical. It's about reclaiming your life from the exhausting cycle of approval seeking, manipulation, and emotional dependence. It's about choosing authenticity over applause, truth over superficial acceptance. It's about recognizing clearly, deeply, and genuinely that you don't need validation from anyone to be valuable. What would your life become if you no longer depended on external approval to feel significant? Who might you finally allow yourself to become if you dared to step away from constant applause and simply became who you authentically are? Perhaps your true freedom lies not in being seen by others, but in finally and fully seeing yourself clearly. Consider clearly this paradox. The less you desperately seek approval from others, the more naturally attractive your presence becomes. For years, you've been trapped in the exhausting pursuit of external validation, believing your worth depended entirely on applause, acceptance, and attention. You've invested enormous energy in trying to control perceptions, carefully crafting how others see you, how they judge you, how they respond to you. Yet the harder you've chased validation, the more elusive genuine respect has become. Have you ever paused to realize how futile this chase truly is? Seeking approval is like chasing your own shadow. The more desperately you run after it, the faster it evades you. But what happens when you stop running? The shadow remains quietly by your side, steady and effortless. This simple image holds profound psychological truth. Genuine respect and admiration are byproducts of your emotional independence, not the results of constant pursuit or effort. Reflect honestly on moments in your life when you felt most genuinely confident and respected. Were they moments when you were anxiously seeking applause, carefully crafting your words, actions, or appearance to impress? Or were they times when you moved freely, spoke naturally, and acted authentically without needing anyone's approval? Chances are your most magnetic moments occurred precisely when you stopped trying so hard. Genuine attractiveness arises naturally when you become indifferent to validation, when you become comfortable standing in your own truth, regardless of whether you're noticed or applauded. Imagine clearly what your life might look like if, starting now, you completely let go of your fear of rejection. What if you no longer depended on constant applause or approval to feel valuable, significant, or worthy? Imagine waking each morning free from the heavy burden of needing to impress anyone, free to express your true thoughts, genuine emotions, and authentic desires without hesitation or doubt. How many times have you compromised your true self, toned down your personality, or suppressed your genuine emotions just to avoid rejection or disapproval? Has your constant pursuit of approval made you feel seen, or has it quietly eroded your identity, leaving you increasingly disconnected from who you truly are? The core insight here is powerful yet simple. True magnetism isn't about seeking validation. It's about releasing your need for it. When you no longer need external confirmation of your worth, you automatically communicate emotional independence, confidence, and authenticity. These qualities are rare and deeply attractive precisely because they're rooted in inner solidity, not external conditions. Consider the people you truly admire, the ones who seem effortlessly charismatic, genuinely confident, and deeply respected. They rarely chase approval. They're not constantly seeking validation. Instead, they carry a quiet self-assurance, a subtle yet unmistakable emotional strength. They stand firmly in their truth, and precisely because they need no one's applause, they effortlessly attract genuine admiration. This emotional independence acts like gravity, drawing people naturally toward them without force or effort. This is precisely what Carl Jung described through his concept of individuation, the process of becoming your authentic self beyond the demands of external validation. Jung understood deeply that real freedom, power, and attractiveness aren't found in conforming to others' expectations, but in authentically embracing your true identity. The moment you stop depending on external approval, you start your journey toward genuine individuation, living clearly aligned with your authentic self. Yet reaching this state isn't necessarily comfortable. It requires courage, self-reflection, and the willingness to face uncomfortable truths. It means confronting and acknowledging your hidden insecurities, your fears of rejection, and the subtle yet powerful ways you've compromised your authenticity for external acceptance. But here's the transformative truth: the discomfort you experience when letting go of approval is temporary. What emerges afterward is clarity, freedom, and genuine self-respect. Think clearly about this scenario. Imagine stepping into a crowded room without the slightest anxiety about being judged or accepted. You're no longer performing, no longer anxiously scanning faces to gauge reactions. You simply exist as yourself, authentic, confident, unapologetic. Ironically, at precisely that moment, people begin noticing you more than ever before. Why? Because your presence becomes compelling precisely because it no longer seeks recognition. Your emotional independence signals to others a strength they've always admired, yet rarely seen so clearly. So, ask yourself directly, honestly, and courageously, who might you become if you stopped needing applause? What hidden part of yourself might finally come forward if you allowed yourself to exist clearly and authentically, without seeking constant validation? What potential would you unlock if you finally released yourself from the exhausting chase for approval? Consider carefully the toll your constant need for validation has taken on your well-being, relationships, and sense of identity. Each time you've compromised your truth for others' acceptance, you've quietly diminished your inner strength. Each time you've anxiously sought applause, you've subtly reinforced the belief that your worth depends entirely on external judgments. But what if today you chose differently? What if today, instead of performing your identity, you embraced authenticity? Let this insight sink deeply into your awareness. The less you desperately need approval, the more effortlessly attractive and respected your presence becomes. This is not merely an abstract idea, it's a powerful psychological truth. The moment you stop begging for acceptance, the world naturally begins to acknowledge you. Your value becomes clear precisely because it no longer depends on external affirmation. So now, genuinely ask yourself this powerful inner question. What would your life look like if you truly no longer feared rejection, no longer needed constant applause to feel valuable? Maybe your real magnetism, your deepest freedom, and your truest self have been patiently waiting for you to stop chasing shadows and validation. Perhaps the emotional independence you've been quietly seeking emerges naturally the moment you let go of your need to be seen. And when you finally make that courageous decision, you won't just attract respect, you'll reclaim your true identity, clarity, and inner strength, becoming effortlessly magnetic because you're no longer afraid to be exactly who you are. Real power isn't about needing others to validate who you are. It's about quietly knowing your worth regardless of external applause. Now ask yourself honestly, what hidden part of yourself have you silenced just to remain accepted by others? What true feelings, dreams, or truths have you carefully tucked away, afraid they might push people away? Imagine what you could gain if today you finally decided to embrace those authentic parts of yourself completely. Right now, I invite you to take a small yet powerful step. Share openly in the comments below one validation you've decided you no longer need. Your honesty may not just liberate you, it could inspire someone else's journey toward genuine freedom. Remember clearly, choosing authenticity over approval might feel uncomfortable at first, but it's precisely this courageous choice that can profoundly transform your life. Your true worth emerges clearly when you no longer rely on applause. Only then do you fully become who you were always meant to be.